how remigration is inevitable. This is something that is going to happen because, as we saw in the previous segment, the chap going, well, I want to go to London to work. Well, what if there is no work? What if things are not getting better, they're getting worse, and eventually the economic collapse of this country will make it a totally unappealing prospect to migrants? And this is what Bo wrote an article about the other day, and it really got me thinking. Because he put up this article on lotus.com, Mass Remigration is Inevitable, and it is full of his wonderful invective. I definitely recommend reading it. The link will be down in the description. But he's absolutely right on this subject. And it's not that it's just, oh, they'll leave of their own accord. No, it is inevitable that they will leave because these people are just coming for the prospect of easy money. That's the only reason they're here, right? In the year ending March 2020, we had 700,000 people who came to live in this country, as Migration Watch showed. 715,000 people were granted citizenship by the British government. Don't know why. Who cares? But as you can see from this, 400,000 left. Right? So that's 400,000 people who are remigrating already. So remigration is just already a part of how these people look at their time in the United Kingdom.
Well, it's completely transitory. Presumably, they came here, got what they wanted, including a citizenship for some reason, and then just got out. But at the end of the day, that still means that's a net 300,000 at least.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Not as many who are coming in are remigrating themselves out. But this is a massive number, and it's been cumulative since 1997, which is why there are probably something in the order of about 15 million foreigners living in England at the moment. Until, of course, the place collapses, and then they'll just leave, it seems. But, when someone says, like, Turning Point UK were like, oh, 1 million legal immigrants have come here, so don't worry about the channel crossings, that's really a drop in the bucket compared to the numbers. You get things like this, full fact, like, there's no evidence 1 million people legally moved to Britain in 2020, 2021. Oh, they're referring to 2 years, not 1 year. And it's like, right, really? That's very interesting. Because they weren't. The Turning Point UK backtracked on this because essentially they jumped the gun on the government's own official immigration statistics.
Oh, okay.
And so they had to kind of walk this back. But that was kind of silly because if they'd been like, nah, that's what we think it is, the events would have proven them to be correct because the government then later released their own statistics in November 2021 saying, yeah, no, actually, we did grant 1.115 million visas. That's nearly, it's basically...
in the year ending September 2021. So that is just... From my opinion, even if full fact were correct, it's only over 2 years.
There's
what difference
no evidence
does that
it's
make?
A million. Well, we know it was definitely 700,000, and then the government's like, yeah, it was over 1 million.
Yeah, once again, even if it was over the course of 2 years, like full fact were claiming incorrectly,
it would still be ridiculous.
Yeah, what difference would that make? That's still an unacceptable number coming in, and then the UK government just comes out and goes, actually, Turning Point were right.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing, right? So they say 39% were for study, so we definitely know they're going to remigrate at some point. So they're coming here, taking advantage of our universities and leaving. 23% were to visit, 18% were for work, and 4% for family, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, fine. But the problem is there appears to be millions of people here who are otherwise unaccounted for. The government don't actually know how they got here or how long they're going to be here for. As Breitbart reports, the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford were like, so 1.25 million people have also appeared in the statistics that we don't have a reasonable explanation for. And, okay, where have they come from? This just magicked up over 1 million people, in addition to the 1 million people the UK government's letting in. It's like, what the hell is happening to this country? Like, do they literally want us to be packed in like sardines until basically people are falling off the edges of the country into the sea?
If you were to listen to Tom Harwood, I don't know why you would, but if you were to listen to him, only 2% of the country is built on with housing, so it's no problem if we just keep building and keep building and keep building. Who cares about all of the green pastures and countryside that we treasure so much in this country? We could just pave over it.
Yeah, I didn't move to London. London moved to me. You can see that walking around in Swindon now. But the thing is, the observatory say, we don't know who's arriving or leaving, who's here or where they are. Brilliant. That's brilliant. So there are millions of people. You don't know what the criminal backgrounds are like. You don't know what they've done wrong with them. These people might all be criminals who have fled foreign countries. We don't know. We don't know anything about them. There is absolutely massive uncertainty about what's going on with migration at the moment because all the data sources we normally use have been hugely disrupted, says what the observatory director. So unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look at the absolute just shambles that is the UK immigration situation at the moment. But also, look at the scale of it. The scale, like that's a city the size of Birmingham has just popped up in the UK.
We don't need more Birminghams in the UK, that's for sure.
That's the thing. If there's one thing we definitely don't need, it's more Birminghams. And so, okay, well, what now? What is all this about? So let's, everyone's like, oh, we've got a massive housing shortage. It's like, I wonder why. I wonder why. The government's letting in 1 million new people a year.
Well, once again, it's embarrassing that the only people who seem to be allowed to go on more mainstream sources like the BBC are people like Tom Harwood, who will go on and say there is a housing crisis in the UK, something that everybody knows already, and then he'll go, in the late 90s, something happened. Play the X-Files music.
Yeah, Callum's edit on that was spectacular.
It was fantastic. But it's the fact that it's just obscuring. To me, those like Tom Harwood are part of the problem, if not worse, because they are supposedly on our side whilst obscuring and pushing it away. Of course. Well, he claims to be on our side.
No, he's a leftist. I don't care.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah, he can claim to be whatever. Anyway. So the point that I'm making here is that remigration is happening already. 400,000 people a year are remigrating themselves. However, the problem is that if you've got, a bathtub with a plug this big and you've just got this much water coming into it, it's going to overflow eventually. And so the question is, why do these migrants even come to the UK? Well, full fact again, in 2017 published this. Well, between 2010 and 2016, an estimated average of 495,000 non-British citizens moved to the UK. So you can see that the Conservative government, right, that was, at the end of Labour's tenure and under the Conservative Lib Dem alliance, you can see that under, Tony Blair, it was something along those lines with, the about 200,000 leaving, 250,000 leaving. So it's a net gain of about 250,000 a year. But under the Conservatives, that has literally more than doubled. In the last year.
I mean, 250,000 alone is ridiculous.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned.
So now
the fact that it's doubled even more.
500,000, and the Conservatives are like, yeah, but that's not enough. You're not like sardines yet. We really want to pack you in to these things.
My shares in the housing stock haven't gone up enough.
Yeah. And so, the 190,000 a year would leave as well, right? So you've got, again, the remigration has always been a part of migration into the United Kingdom, right? But why are they coming? Well, as they say, economic and labour market factors are a major driver of international migration, right? So it's not that they care that this country is going to get built like Megacity 1, right? Which I'm going to do a podcast about this because I've got a lot more to say on this issue, right? But so they say the most common reason non-British citizens reported for coming to the UK in 2016 was work. They're just mercenaries. They're just nomadic mercenaries. 22,000. So half of them came for work, followed by those who came to study, which is 27%. And then family reasons were for 17%. So those coming with their families to work, probably. The family is here working. Oh, I'm going to come and live with my husband, bring the kids, something like that. It's so, right. So it's just mercenary reasons. How's that good? Do you think it's good if the regular person in this country has a massive influx of foreign labour to compete with their domestic labour?
Well, I'm going to try and steelman
Let's hear it.
This argument and say the typical leftist sort of argument of, well, if they weren't coming, we wouldn't have the people to do these jobs.
But if they weren't coming, there wouldn't be demand for people to do these jobs.
There you go. Well, the other thing,
we need people to do, because of X number of population, like the NHS doctors situation is a great one. Right? So roughly 20% of NHS workers are foreign born. So yeah, but that's roughly equivalent to the percentage of the country. If they weren't here, we wouldn't have a need for this 20% of foreign-born doctors.
And I will also say, having had a recent experience in A&E myself, that I don't think just having more people running about or sitting around on their phones doing nothing in the A&E room, in the A&E waiting room, would actually improve it. I think it's probably some systemic changes need to be made in how the NHS is run. Also, of course, my own counter-argument to that point that I brought up would be that if we didn't have so many people coming in and increasing supply for the amount of jobs that are there, it wouldn't be pushing down wages. We saw this with the HGV drivers. All of a sudden, they'd be offering more for these particular jobs, incentivizing people to take those jobs.
And that's another question. Why have wages been stagnating since about the late 90s, Tom Harwood asked?
Something
I don't
happened.
know, Tom. I don't know. Is it something to do with massive amounts of competition for the same jobs? And so you've turned the market into a buyer's market. If I was the employer and I wanted just bodies in my banana packing factory or whatever it is I've got, it's like, well, I've got no shortage of people. I don't have to take care of them. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to pay them well because there will be people there to do the work. It's not good for the British person who's entering into the labour market. But the thing is, I mean, things aren't looking good in the UK jobs market anyway, because it looks like the economy is on the verge of collapse, says Sir Alan Duncan, former Deputy of the Foreign Office under Boris Johnson and Conservative MP. Does he know anything? Is he an authority on it? I guess not. Who cares? You know, it's just Conservative MPs going, guys, I think we're actually on the edge of an economic collapse. So, well, that's good. At least it'll deal with the immigration problem, won't it?
Well, I mean, if there's no economy for them to come
Exactly.
to, they might all go away. Fantastic.
They're coming for jobs, Arno. Britain's in the middle of a massive economic
I've got a
collapse. Don't.
fantastic jobs program for that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Building a gigantic seawall. That'll employ a lot of people,
Yeah.
won't it?
That would. So this is one of those things where he's like, oh, well, of course we want to disadvantage Russia as an essential tool of war. It's like, I don't care about Russia at all. But we don't want to disadvantage ourselves, so we fall in some kind of dystopian economic collapse. We are on the edge of that. We are on the edge of dystopian economic collapse, says Sir Alan Duncan. Oh, brilliant. That's just great news. Well, I mean, at least that means, again, the economic situation will be so dire, the immigrants are like, I'm not going to that dystopian hellhole. And things are not going well, right? So there are 5 indications, as I wouldn't normally use the London economic, but this is actually quite a good summary of the problem. 5 signs that we're on the brink of an economic collapse. Maybe. This was in 2017, but things haven't got any better, have they? So basically, there's a savings crisis. There have been tariffs on imports and exports between the EU and the UK because of Brexit. The Office of National Statistics in that year discovered that actually we don't have a surplus of 469 billion. We have a net deficit of 22 billion.
Oh, fantastic.
Good news. Inflation was hitting a 5-year high back in 2017. You just think that's cute. Inflation was there's an inflation crisis at 3% in 2017.
In 2017, I could still afford fuel.
Yeah, exactly. How naive and innocent you were. And there's they expect an interest rate hike, which is not good. But anyway, so yeah, fast forward to this year from 2017, and of course we have the cost of living crisis. So I mean, like, you know, you can come here and work, yeah, but you can't afford anything.
I wonder what the deficit is now, given the cost of living crisis and all the inflation that's come along with that.
I wish I'd looked it up, actually. It didn't occur to me.
Because the money printer Sunak has been going for quite some time now.
Well, that's exactly it. It's like, look, I'm going to go to the UK to work. It's like, okay, and do what? I'm going to send money home. No, you're not. Because all your money will go on your rent. Because there's so many of you who thought you'd come here to work that the money isn't going to be able to get spent in that way. So, as they say, rising inflation, tax increases, and soaring energy bills have been cited by experts as key factors driving up the cost of living in 2022. Brilliant. Amazing that we need experts for that. I mean, a lot of, say, the energy bills is because of government redistributive policies. So a quarter of your energy bill is for social concerns. And it's just a secret tax.
Basically, fuel costs and everything regarding any sort of energy and anything like that seems to have been massively negatively impacted by the net zero schemes that the government has been trying to push for years.
Yeah, because the government is trying to fulfill the Labour Party agenda. That's what it is. You know, it sickens me.
I mean, at least they're fulfilling someone's agenda, but it's just not the one we voted for.
Yeah, I guess that's that. Like, because otherwise the Conservatives would be totally rudderless, and they'd be like, I just don't. Well, we're the government. It's
honestly, like, I would actively welcome the Conservative Party to just throw their hands up in the air and go, I don't know what to do, and just leave everything alone, because things would probably get better if they just stopped trying to meddle with everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy for them to basically take polls from the public. Just like, what do you think we should do?
Well, the public's probably not going to vote for progressive agendas, though, are they?
Exactly. So, that's why I'd prefer it. You know, I actually have more faith in the British public. If the Conservative government ran their government on essentially a sort of referendum basis, it's like, do you want us to lower taxes or increase taxes? Lower the damn taxes. Do you want us to increase migration or lower migration? Lower the migration. You know, like people would at least be voting in the right way, I suspect. But anyway, So yeah, they think that the average household in the UK is going to be £1,200 worse off per year in the coming months. It's like, great. I love hearing that my money is going down. I love hearing that we're all getting poorer. Don't know why the migrants are going to want to come here, frankly, which, again, at least the problem solves itself. So yeah, its YouGov survey came out and they found that 1 in 5 people are now struggling in the UK, which is bad. They found that the number of people who are struggling or unable to make ends meet has doubled in the last year, saying things like, I cannot afford my costs. I often have to go without essentials like food and heating. If you go down, there's a graph here. So here we go. Right, so the dark red line at the bottom are the people who can't afford their costs and have to go without essentials. So you can see how that's gone up to, over 4% now. So it's 5% of people just can't afford to live. And then the number of people, the orange one above, are those people who can only just afford their costs and struggle to make ends meet. So they don't have disposable income. And so that's gone up to, 22% of people now. So that's nearly a quarter of the country who's just like, yeah, this is just terrible. And as you can see, that's in a year, right? That's in literally
that is just a year, isn't it?
It's doubled how bad that's got, right?
I'd put money on this as well, mostly impacting people who are younger.
And poorer.
And poorer, of course, but it's oftentimes it'll be people who aren't set up in the way.
Yeah, it's not the boomers.
Yeah, the boomers are fine. I know plenty of people who are older than me, and I'm not going to hold it against them that they already had property in the 70s and such like that. It's just that the situation for someone like myself, for someone like Callum, for anybody in the office really, is not looking good. For instance, if we want to own property before we're 40.
Yeah, they bought a house before mass immigration, so they have a house. But anyway, so as I say, half of Britons say the household financial situation got worse in the last month. This is very recent. And 60% expect to be worse from a year from now. So it's like, right. Okay, that's really interesting. With literally, you've got 4% of people saying it got better. So everyone's like, look, this country is going down, man. There is a massive and steep decline that's really happening very, very swiftly. So all we need to do really is telegraph this information to the work-seeking migrants. Say, look, this isn't the place. This is a sinking ship. In fact, it appears that you guys have capsized it by coming in such phenomenal numbers. And so now we're just going to have to go down with the ship and then hopefully pick up the pieces afterwards. And so once the collapse happens and the Conservatives are like, right, okay, something might have to change at this point. The migrants start leaving en masse. We can turn to the Conservatives, and I was going to say persuade them to change, but I'm actually thinking take them to Traitors' Gate. No, I'm not going to carry on. I'm not going to Fed post. Hopefully the remigration will just solve itself, is what I'm saying, because we cannot expect the Conservatives to do a goddamn thing about it.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can become a member and find all of our premium content on lotuseaters.com, including the latest Epochs number 57 on Mark Antony, done by Bo and Carl. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Getter at lotuseaters_com. Thank you and goodbye.